Hey everybody, how y'all doing out there? This is Matthew, and today's webinar is about conversion rate strategies that will give you an unfair advantage in doubling your leads. We have some very exciting guests today, and I'd like to introduce our guests next. Today, we've got Talia Wolf. Talia is the CEO of Conversioner. She helps businesses build and execute their conversion rate optimization strategies using emotional triggers and user behavior data to generate more revenues, leads, engagement, and sales. And next up, we've got David Darmanin. David is the founder and CEO of Hotjar. Hotjar is an amazing product. If you're not using it, I highly recommend that you do. He has 12 years experience with digital marketing, and he's run hundreds of CRO tests for his clients across 19 languages, 12 currencies, and 13 industries. He's not showing off at all. No. And then we've got Justin Rondeau, and Justin is the conversion rate optimization manager at Digital Marketer, and he's analyzed, believe it or not, 2,500 plus CRO tests across virtually every industry. And then we have Tiffany daSilva, and she's the director of digital strategy at Powered by Search, and she spent the last 10 years. You don't look like you have 10 years experience in any industry, but she spent the last 10 years in all facets of online marketing at companies like GeoSign, Achievers, Shopify, and her experience has been exposed to, how many websites you said? It's over 300 websites, managing multi-million-dollar budgets. So today's lineup of speakers are amazing that we have on the panel today. Also, I want to take a little bit of time to just give a virtual high five out there to the people behind the scenes today. This webinar and these webinars that we've been doing would not be happening without the hard work from these people. That is Joel and Goran and Dwayne. Joel is the one organizing them all. I believe Goran's going to be managing the slides as we're going through, and Dwayne's going to be answering any questions that you may have. So feel free to post those questions in the chat section, and we may try and get to answering them. The next thing that we want to talk about is a little bit of cleaning house about how this is going to go. So I want to let everybody know that the webinar is going to be available for replay. So for whatever reason, if you jump out or you get called into a client meeting or have to do something, this is being recorded. It'll go up June 30th. It will be on the Powered by Search blog. You can also sign up and find it as well at Powered by Search at the webinar series URL that you see there. And if you signed up for it, we will actually email you the recording to it. We'd also like to make sure that you stay into the very end, because if you stay into the very end, at the end we're going to post up a link to where you can take a survey and let us know how we're doing, whether it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whether you liked or loved it. And if you do that, we'll actually enter you into a contest to be able to win a $50 gift card towards Amazon. For those that are out there on Twitter today, the hashtag that we use for this webinar series is Marketing Fanatics, because, well, obviously we're fanatics about marketing. So without further ado, let's get right into the webinar about how we can share strategies with you that's going to give you that unfair advantage into doubling your leads. First question. So I think with the panel, just so you guys know, I may just sort of go left or right, but feel free that if you need to jump in and say something passionately about this question, feel free just to do that. So I'm going to start with Talia. How can you run maybe split test if you don't have a lot of traffic?
Oh, okay. Oh God! Every time you do that, like my entire face just flashes up on the screen. Whoa! Sorry. How can you run tests? Okay, so I actually, I think there's going to be some really interesting answers here about how you can run tests for like low traffic. But what I actually want to really emphasize is that when you do run tests on low traffic websites, you want to make sure that your tests are meaningful. So that's going to be my piece of advice. Don't just test like call to action buttons and maybe like a title. If you're gonna, spend your resources and time in testing, go for a big one, like change entire structures, build a strategy and test the strategy so that when you actually get results in a month, or if you've got less traffic then even more, but when you get the results, you actually can understand them a little more and know why things worked and why they didn't. So that's going to be my tip in that area.
Cool. So are you saying that, like, So instead of doing a small test, I got that about a headline or a button. You're actually saying maybe redesign the whole landing page and split test completely different designs, or are you talking about a whole different approach and strategy of who you're targeting and the audience that you're targeting? Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's less about how the test looks like, and it's more about the planning of it. You know, I just did a presentation at Opticon, and I was saying that 63% of marketers base their A/B testing on intuition, and the biggest problem with that is that people don't really understand their tests. So they spend a lot of time in kind of running tests and setting them up, and as you know, it's a lot of work in terms of development and design and stuff, and then you get the results and you don't really understand them. And I think that's the biggest issue. So I would definitely spend more time in planning a test that you can learn from. And when you're testing, you know, minor stuff like, let's say, a call to action button, because that's the easiest thing to do, you know, you don't really understand why the blue won. It doesn't really make sense, and it's not easy to kind of take any conclusions from that. So I really do recommend, it doesn't have to be an entire new redesign because that can take a lot of resources, but just kind of thinking a bit out of the box and thinking, what is my current strategy? What am I talking about right now? What is my KPI? And then how can I test something that is completely different and really get an outcome where I can understand the results and then scale them or use them to create additional tests or to change things within the company itself. So that's kind of what I'm trying to say, that try to test things that are meaningful and that you can understand.
Cool. That makes sense to me. How about the rest of the panel here? Maybe we'll just go.
I'd love to jump in on this one, actually, because this is a very this is actually kind of timely that this question came up this way.
Okay.
I was a contributor on a site for quite a while, and I actually got fired because of my answer to this question, which was I said you can't. There's better things to do. You just can't do. Apparently, I didn't know that they were you know, trying to push out their own testing tool at the time when I did this on a live webinar, and I said that. But I was like, you absolutely cannot do that. If you don't have the sample size to run these things, you're going to get these conclusions that are completely unfounded. It's ridiculous, and there's so many different things you can do. And there's personalization, even in some cases, even some sequential work that you can do, but a straight synchronous A/B test, you cannot run that if you have low traffic. Your sample sizes just aren't enough. And it is dangerous for your company if you're drawing conclusions and doing that in this way. So that's really kind of my 2 cents on that. There's just so much more opportunity, and you're actually shooting yourself in the foot further, because all the other opportunities that are out there, you're spending your time on a test that's going to give you nothing. It's ooh. So this is one of those things for me that whenever I hear this question, I was like, I just need to get this out. So that's my 2 cents.
I have to agree with that.
You're fired.
All right, I'm out.
I have to agree with that. I think that's good sound advice. If you don't have traffic, then you shouldn't be testing. You should go out and get that traffic. Having said that, there are some things that you can do, because obviously it depends what a lot of traffic actually is. So think about it. Test velocity. There's multiple levers which affect how quickly you can get results, right? So sample size is one of them. But actually your conversion rate has a big impact on how long it takes to get results. So one thing that I've noticed quite a few times is that sometimes the conversion rate is too low. So one thing which can be a nice trick is that if you don't have a lot of traffic, and your conversion rates are quite low, choose a goal which is as close as possible to where you're doing the test, so that in that way you can kind of get quicker velocity. So I know it might not be ideal, but instead of looking at actually visits to the thank you page, you could potentially start testing visits to, for example, the checkout. So move that goal closer so you can increase your conversion rate and get your tests done quicker.
Right. So I think it's a really good. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. There.
Oh, sorry. No, I was going to say that I actually think both points are very good, and at the end of the day, it is a good question of when you say low traffic, what is low traffic? You know, I was saying, oh, low traffic. Okay, you can get it. You know, get results in a month. But then I was saying, oh, maybe we're talking about people who have absolutely no traffic. But yeah, I completely with you both on that. There's so many other things you can be doing. And I love your point, David, about moving the needle a bit forward and maybe thinking about the other KPIs. So not the end result, the thank you page, but even just like the sign-ups or the next kind of thing you can test, which has a little more traffic than, the bottom of the funnel.
Yeah, one thing I'd want to add to that as well is if you're going to be using higher up micro conversions as an indicator, make sure you're still measuring further down the funnel too. Like even if you're not going to be getting the statistically sound data deeper, make sure you have those, you're measuring everything so you can actually use those micro conversions as indicators. Specifically if you're looking at add to cart to actual checkout, if you start seeing data normalize in a similar way between those two metrics, you actually might be able to draw a better conclusion. Even though you don't have, the raw numbers that you'd need further down the funnel.
Right.
Good point.
Do you guys have an idea of like a?
And I'll just add.
Oh, I think there's a delay. Sorry, I was going to say maybe Tiff, maybe you can answer this as well. But how much traffic do you need to be able to execute a test? Like, are we talking about 1,000 visitors a month? Are we talking about 100,000? Like, what is the minimum that you think that a website needs to run an A/B split test?
I'd like to take a stab at this one, because in reality, at least, again, this is best practice here we're talking, because the only real answer to this is to use a sample calculator. So that you can understand how long it's actually going to take to run a test based on the amount of traffic you have. But one good indicator is actually the amount of conversions you have per day, rather than the actual number of visitors. So at least at a bare minimum, you need to have 10 conversions per day on each variation if it's an A/B test. Because if you don't, you're not going to have enough basic activity going through this test. Then obviously, depending on how much traffic you have vis-a-vis those conversions, that will affect the velocity of the test. But I think that's kind of a good basic benchmark.
Cool. Tiff, we haven't heard from you yet. What do you think?
I think that's so weird. So we have, I want to speak. And they want to do an A/B test that they just don't have enough traffic for. I follow the same kind of 10 conversions a day type of rule, but I want to know about the page and know what's going. Tools like Hotjar, all the kind of tools within it, heat maps. I want to see what people are clicking on. I want to hear what's stopping them from signing up, and kind of leave that going for a while, like whatever, a month or two, enough to get data, so I can see glaringly obvious things that I do have data for that I can change. And then I would probably make a big swooping thing like Talia would do, where I would just change a bunch of stuff and then wait 2 weeks and see, okay, did I go up or down with the whole page? And if not, I'll just revert or maybe even optimize from there. So I tend to kind of stay away from A/B testing in that way because I never believe it and I'm never really confident that it worked. But there's so many other tools out there that you can use to really get the information that you really are looking for with an A/B test.
Do you guys ever believe in paying for traffic or using a tool from a crowdsourcing place to increase your traffic if you wanted to do CRO?
I'm worried about doing something like that because the different sources, the different traffic sources that are out there, people have different intentions as they access your site. So if you're paying for clicks through AdWords, Facebook, or anything like that, they're going to be having a much different. They're going to be a much different mindset than somebody who's doing a direct search for your site or being referred to it. So if I'm running a test and we don't have the traffic for it, I'm not going to try to ramp it up with kind of an unknown traffic source or how I expect it to be working, because it really is an unknown variable that's outside of the scope of your test while it's running. So that's just, if you do add a source, you're going to have to reset and then keep and start from scratch again.
Right. So basically the message is if you don't have enough fucking traffic, don't do CRO.
Exactly. No, not CRO, testing. CRO and testing are very different. Very different things.
I think Tiffany had a very valid point.
Do not get started.
I actually want to also comment on the whole thing of when you're paying for users to come onto your site and kind of test it. I have user testing. I have a big issue with that. When you're basically paying people to do a test, they're going to answer the way they think you want the answer to be. So it's kind of like they're psychologically answering things the way they think you want it to be. So I really try to steer away from that. Actually, a lot of our clients ask about that and try to, offer that within their funnels. I really try to steer away from it because I think it's really not the best way to go.
Yeah, that's the Hawthorne effect. That you're going to give the answers that you expect the people giving you the exam or the whatever goal needs to be seen. Yeah, exactly. And those are the type of people. I also, from a qualitative standpoint, and Tiffany, I agree completely that when you're gathering insights, you want to understand the why and like what people are doing, and then using different qualitative insights. The one that I have difficulties with particularly is user survey. Because the type of people who answer surveys, you're getting information from the type of person who answers a user survey, which is a fragment of your actual user base. So it's kind of the persona of somebody who's willing to take a test or a survey that you're now going to be using for kind of rolling out to the entire population, which isn't a representation of that. So that's why you have to couple it in with all these other qualitative sources that Tiffany was talking about a little bit earlier.
Right. And I just want to be clear, Jason, that you're talking about people who pay for the survey versus running surveys on your actual website, and the users who are naturally ending up there. That would be okay, but using a paid source is not okay. Is that what you're recommending?
I'm even saying for people that get there naturally, it's still there's a type of person who's going to take a survey, a long survey. If you're using a one question multiple choice that pops up, at that footer or as you're trying to exit, maybe that's I think a little better. But if they're going to be going through like a 10-minute survey of some kind, right, that's the type of person who takes a survey who that wouldn't be, I think, a complete representation of the whole. So you have to couple that with other things.
The person is a lot.
I kind of disagree here, because what I end up doing a lot of the time is I don't listen necessarily to what the person's saying, but I try to identify the type of personality they are. Like, are they going to be humanistic? Are they more methodical? And I watch what they do on the site. Like, do they have to read every detail? And if so, what are they missing? If they're spontaneous, I usually don't care about them, but are they just leaving at the first sight of something cool and shiny, and what is that? So I think they're really useful, but I don't necessarily use them as, this user said this, we have to do it now, but more of what's that personality telling me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Or where the blockers are, right, Tiff? Like, where did they get choked up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you, Tiffany, on this. And in fact, we've done now surveys with hundreds of clients and companies. And while I think you have a point, there is some bias, and the correlation is so high that at the end of the day, the insights you're going to get are still going to be valuable. But there is one interesting trick, though, and I don't want to depart too much onto the survey route, but it's just interesting from our point of view, which is what's really effective is to actually survey the users or visitors who actually completed the step you're trying to get them to complete. And that's actually extremely qualitative when you do that, because you can ask them what nearly stopped you from completing that step. And that's typically really, really insightful.
Cool. Let's go on to the next question, just so that we can get through some more of them. I think there's some really amazing stuff that's coming out here. But the question is, what do you do when a test flattens out in terms of results?
This question hurts my soul. I have actually a story about this that I have to share because it's ridiculous. When I first went to Shopify, there was this, on the homepage, there used to be this girl who had a red scarf. And I noticed that when I did a heat map, it was all you could really see was that there was a lot of activity around this red scarf. So I decided to take the color and just match it to the call to action color, which is so like, why do people do this? But there was an actual thought behind it, and I wanted to change the color of the CTA to see if I can get people to kind of shift what they were looking at based on that scarf. So I did it, and I just kind of did it quietly and kind of saw this, like, there was a huge increase within the first couple days, and it was like 100% increase. And everyone is like losing their mind, and that, like, they were asking me to do like, a case study within Shopify, and I'm like up there and whatever. And then people started arguing about like, this test we can't be changing things or changing brand colors because of this. Created chaos, kind of. And then within like 2 weeks, it completely flatlined. And I remember just sitting there going, I don't know what to do now. And I was in panic. Like, I didn't want to tell anyone. I kind of just, every time someone talked about it, I'm like, we're not talking about this. But when I saw this question, I actually want to know the answer. Like, what the hell do you do? Because I just, like, cried in the corner and rocked myself. Because I had nothing. I don't.
I absolutely love failing tests. Like, I love running a test and seeing it fail. I know it sounds terrible and I shouldn't say that because, you know, my goal is to increase conversions for my clients and everything. But, you know, it's rare that because we run such kind of big, massive tests for our customers, to see one that really flatlines, is you can learn so much from it, and it takes really good, really interesting amount of people to be able to work on such a test, because everyone gets so, you know, psyched for it, just like you did, Tiffany. You know, they fall in love with their design and they fall in love with everything, and there's polls going on in the company. Like, we always have a poll going on. I always lose of everything. I'm always bad at it. But yeah, I mean, it's always, I love seeing tests that fail, just because you can learn so much more about them than you can learn from actually winners. That's kind of like my opinion that I've seen in the past few years, that, you know, when something wins, you tend to kind of say, oh, that one, great, amazing, fantastic, let's just keep it up there. And then when something fails, you're much more like able to go back and say, okay, what was it? I don't get it. I spent so much time, I put so much energy into it. What was it that didn't fail? And, you know, you put a heat map there. I was going to say you put a hot jar there. You put a heat map there, and you check it, and you learn stuff like, oh, wow, wait, shit, I should have tried this, I should have done this, or let's try a different variation. And it gets you thinking much more than a winner. Like, when you win, you're like, ah, great, cool, got it, nailed it, let's move on to the next thing. So yeah, as I said, I love seeing tests lose, and I enjoy learning from them. So
yeah. I think, I mean, when you have a winner or a loser, you have some sort of definitive, there's something happening that you see. But when you get into this flatline notion, which most tests do, especially if you're getting into like kind of minor tweaks that are happening, and Talia talks about how doing like larger designs, and I can see where you're going to run into, you know, when the bigger the change, the bigger the list, supposedly, the bigger the stakes as well. But when you're starting to do minor iterative testing, where that's very, very useful, for some, you'll begin to start seeing more of these flatline type tests. And if you do run into flatline tests, one of the things I'd suggest doing is digging into your analytics and then trying to break through into different segments. So try to understand if, you know, maybe these are just averages telling me that this is how it worked overall, but maybe for one of your key demographics, it's actually working very well, or maybe in other cases might be actually just tanking. So really getting to some advanced segments and trying to find some sort of silver lining on this kind of no information scenario, because if you look at it, when you have a flatline test, you don't have a loser where you can gather insights. You don't have a winner that can give you more money and gather some insights. You have kind of blank. So I generally go into dig into your analytics, see what you can find. And if you don't find anything, it might just be, you know, the next question you need to ask is, was the change actually, you know, apparent? And that's something that you could use heat maps for, to try and figure out if people can actually see what's happening, or if that's an area that people care about. And if even then, if you're not getting any sort of insight there, it might just be time to move on. There's an infinite amount of other tests you could be running at any given time. And so, you know, just go on to something else and see if you can move the needle somewhere other than that.
Cool. That's some great feedback on that. Let's go on to the next question here, and I think we're kind of on it before a little bit, but we could expand upon it a little bit more. But the question is, what are some of the common mistakes that people do during during surveys, right? and to understand what the pain points are? So I know there was some friction out there, Justin, that, you know, you're not a survey fan, but maybe those out there that are. Why don't we hear from them? You know, what can we do to make it get better data back?
I think I've got some of the stats on this, actually. What I'd say the biggest mistake is when surveys are created in a way where responses are bucketed out. That's the biggest mistake you can ever make. So open-ended is the only way you can really do feedback. So this is consistently the biggest mistake that we see.
can you give an example, just so for people out there who don't know the difference between, those types of questions of open-ended and not open-ended, and how it should be structured for people?
Sure. So I think it's so common to see like surveys or polls where the questions are, what's the reason you decided to do something or did not do something? And the user is presented with options. So was it this tick box? Was it this tick box? Was it this? Or a scale, and you get 0 to 10. And the problem is that the outcome of that is actually a fancy slide or a PDF which you share internally or with the client. But it tends to not be that actionable. So what we invite our customers to do is to not shy away from open-ended questions, such as, if you didn't convert today, what was the reason why you were not interested? So, and just have an open-ended response. And what's great about that is you can actually see the wording they use, which is incredibly effective because it can influence the way you write copy, because you want the same words that you use to kind of sync up with the words that your visitors are using. But more importantly, it allows you to really empathize really well by reading out all these open-ended responses and then categorize them yourself to understand, in reality, how your users or visitors perceive the problem, whereas the opposite, which is you bucketing it out how you think it is.
Cool, that was great. Thanks for expanding upon that. Maybe someone else can answer this one, but at what point, if you are getting back, open-ended answers from other people, at what point do you actually act on it? From one person just saying they didn't buy because of this, how many times do you have to see a pattern before you actually start changing your sales copy or start changing design elements to your landing page or website?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say that from just the amount of the surveys that we've done, what we tend to do is when we do get a substantial amount of answers, and again, I'm actually kind of with Justin here about against the surveys, but when we do surveys for our clients, what we don't actually just act upon them with no, we don't actually act upon them just, oh, okay, everyone, this amount of people said we should do it, so let's do it. We test it. So we'll definitely kind of say, okay, everyone said that the reason they didn't convert is because something was in their way. Let's test a variation without that in their way, and we'll try and run an A/B test. So we're not so quick on the trigger, because again, that's me. I don't know how other companies do it, but I really, or people, testers do it. But as I said at the beginning, I'm not really in favor of testers user testing surveys and stuff like that. So
that's a good idea. Like basically, you're saying you can use the survey to feed you with ideas if you're running out of ideas to test, but as a fail-safe, you should still do the A/B split test. Is what you're saying? Is that right?
Yeah, I was actually saying this to Joanna Weave yesterday from Copy Hackers. We were thinking about ideas for writing and also about ideas for tests. And one of the things I was saying is that there's so much information out there. You don't have to think about it all by yourself. So the surveys do help you get some really nice ideas about what to test. And I think that's a great way, of getting ideas to test and testing if surveys do work or don't.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest mistake for me that I see is just one user survey comes in and they're like, oh my God, this happened, we got to go this way. And then like another one comes in, it's the complete opposite. And they're like, oh wait, stop the presses, we got to go this way. And it's like, okay, like let's just wait. And I try to like not even read them until you're kind of getting a full, so that you're not letting, one day when you had a lot of like you didn't have that much to do and you could really focus on it. Don't let that simmer for too long in your brain, because then you think it's more important. So just kind of try to remove as much bias as you can when you're actually reading surveys, so that you don't add your own bias to it. Or sometimes I even write what I'm thinking down and kind of put it away and then go through it all and see if it matched or not, and just so I have like a different perspective and I don't just take the perspective of whoever's answering all the surveys. Just because they're kind of flooding, they're flooding and changing my mind on things.
Yeah, I think you made a good point right there about kind of waiting until you have a decent amount of survey data to even look at it, especially if you're doing this from a client side. If you're working with a client and they see like one particular thing and it'll just resonate, and they'll hyper focus on it, and that's all they can think about. And then, but it could be really in the minority. And so I think that this piece with survey data fits just in line as well with split test data as well. Like, don't monitor the split test every day and be like, oh, today it's at X% higher. Can't wait to tell everybody about it. Similarly to the qualitative stuff with the survey, it's like, oh man, this one person says we suck. I can't wait to tell my boss. And then, but really, like, everybody's like, oh, you're great though. So just kind of.
You know what?
I love you. You're awesome.
I was actually going to say that we're doing like this project right now with a very large media company, and we're doing like these exit pops for them. They're trying to get people to sign up to their newsletter, and it's hilarious just to see kind of the amount of emails they get. You can see like, this sucks, exit pop, oh crap, you know, like all these weird things. And I used to get, like, at the beginning, the client used to send me emails like, oh my god, everyone hates them, we have to remove them now, they're terrible. And then, but I'd look at the data and I'm like, dude, we just increased like signups by 80%. You're just like doubling your newsletter signups every day. You're getting tons of, no, but this person, you know, and it's just funny to see how, you know, what you get from one, you know, disruptive person who seems to think the world is caving versus the actual data that you get. So it's always kind of a game between those two.
Well, while you're on that topic, why don't we just jump to slide 11?
Oh, yeah. I like this one.
Because this, we might as well, we're right on this. We'll jump to slide 11, and it says, what's your opinion on content pop-ups? So they, you know, do you admit that they work? I guess you do.
They work.
I know they do, but I hate them.
I love them, and I'll tell you why. Because they work. And the reason they work is because you can't, if you use them correctly, I guess. So don't be the person that's like exit pop all the time. Okay, like you want to be able to segment out to the right, you know, type of person for whether they should be seeing this piece. Actually, we just ran a test on this back in April, I think it was. We were using an exit pop tech that used segmentation based off of you know, terms in the URL. If it said Facebook, they were given an exit, and they were on a content page. They're given an exit pop to sign up for something, one of our kind of like lead generations or lead magnets, like about, hey, here's a Facebook swipe file, just take it. And so we did the same thing for blogging, a general one as well, for just kind of if they're visiting the blog rather than seeing any sort of topic, but using more advanced segments to give them these exit pops. And I think we increased over 14 days, we saw 2,689 more leads just from that.
It's so much fun. And I actually have to say that this is one of my biggest things, because you know, everyone hates exit pops, whatever. They work, they're amazing. And then I kept talking about how amazing they are and whatever. And my co-founder says, let's have an exit pop on our website and get people to sign up for our newsletter. Says, yeah, sure, no problem, let's do that. And then, you know, he wrote the brief. And the next thing I see, I open the website and there's a massive picture of me on the website going, please sign up. And I was like, what are you doing? And A/B test showed that you win. And go fine with that. And then I did this video thing, but it was so annoying because now there's my face just plastered all over there, and I can't argue. So I hate the exit pop, but it's winning. So there you go.
I think Tiffany has some like her face right now looks like she's about to explode. Like us talking like she's.
No, it's not. I hate that they work, and I'm waiting for it to just working across the board forever, and then we never have to talk about them again. Because like even every time I fill out one, I feel like a puppy dies somewhere. Like they just seem so gimmicky. But yeah, they totally work, and I hate it. But if you target it though, it's not all over the place, then I'm better. I'm more okay with it.
Yeah, and besides targeting, it's also if it's executed well. There's a huge difference, like what you're offering, how it's positioned. It can be done well, it can be done horribly wrong. We know the difference.
Can we talk about some best practices around exit pop-ups? Like, what have you found when using them appropriately, it works more times than it doesn't, or or are there some tips that you'd recommend? Like would you put an exit pop-up that's specific to the content that the person was looking at, or would you just have a general one for the entire site? I mean, that's probably a very obvious answer, but you get the idea. What are some tips you can offer experts?
I think Justin had the best one, which is segmenting and targeting. That's, I think, critical. But I'd add one word, which is value. Give some value to the visitor. I think that's the most important one.
Yeah, definitely. If you know, okay, first of all, let's say that there's a very big difference between the system exit pops. I don't think I have to say this, but you know the ones where you click on the X and then this boom thing comes up, but not those. Okay, none of those. But yeah, like the design.
You don't want $1,000? Are you sure you don't want $1,000?
Exactly. Not those. That's probably why you hate them so much, because you must have had like going up saying, "Tiffany, don't know one thing before you leave." But wait, there's more.
5 more things.
Definitely segmentation. Definitely value. I think. Also, one of the things that I think are important is explaining what they. I know it sounds terrible because we're just laughing at it, but what they lose out on if they don't sign up or do whatever it is via the exit pop. So not just saying, oh, please sign up to my newsletter or please download my app, but explaining what the repercussions are, and not by you will lose whatever money, but just by saying, do you want to get the amazing guide for mobile optimization, or do you just want to keep your mobile non-existing site? Like, literally, I mean, the terrible example, sorry about that, but just explaining, it's like 10 p.m. here, so I'm so tired. But just kind of explaining what the value is, and also showing maybe what they might be losing, but in a nice, calm way, without kind of Vegas lights there.
Right. Those are good tips. So value, sometimes fear of loss, and segmentation is what I'm hearing is sort of the 3 things. And we've seen those ones that you're talking about, Talia, where you have like, hey, yes, I want, I'm going to more visitors. Yes, I do want that. Or no, I don't want any more traffic, and I want my sales, my business to close, kind of thing. You see this.
very, very dramatic. Very dramatic. Yeah.
But I think like the ones that always get me are the ones like, you're on a recipe site, you've probably clicked on like 4 or 5 different recipes and been on the page like, don't give that face to us. And you've been on the page like 3 minutes, let's say, and then right when you're about to leave, and you still kind of love the site, but you have to like get back to your day. It says, "Are you sure like you don't want a recipe from this person sent to you every single day, and you won't miss out on the next greatest thing with lentils?" And you're just like, "Yeah."
You got me.
I need. You know who does that well too? BuzzFeed. You know who else does that very well? That's BuzzFeed. I'm obsessive about Harry Potter. I'm a huge Potterhead, and it always like confessions of recipes, Harry Potter, whatever. And whenever I'm on BuzzFeed, I go for all these whatever 500 things you didn't know about Snape, whatever, and they come up and they say, oh, do you want to sign up to a newsletter about Harry Potter? Or if you're looking at things about cats and you get, oh, do you want to sign up for a newsletter about cats? So it really is, again, about the value, the segmentation, and kind of knowing what you're looking for and giving you that added value.
Yeah, well, even, and I think when you have something saying like, oh, do you want something more about cats? They're getting specificity, they're getting segmentation right there, but they're missing value. Like that's no better than an inline form that says want to join my newsletter. It's just popping it right in their face. It's lacking value, and I'm like at DM, one of our big things is like value in advance, always value in advance, and that's how you turn people into. That's how you generate leads, and that's how you turn leads into customers. Right. So I think that when you're hitting people up and kind of inconveniencing them at that point too, where they're done with the content, they're about to leave, and you're trying to catch them on one last grab. Like I think it's one of those things that you really need to push value, because if they don't see it, you're just kind of taking up their time that they were already, and they might actually kind of turn on you at that point, and be like, oh, I'm over this site.
Can you guys maybe explain, because it's one thing to use value, but there's a lot of people who will be listening to this or viewing this later, and they may not understand what value means. But what types of things can you give to people that add value to them? Like, is this a checklist, or can you give some?
Checklists are awesome. People love checklists. Okay, they absolutely love them. Checklists.
Why do they love checklists?
It's easily consumable. And they can get that information quickly and then actually maybe turn it into something. So if it's something that's high in value, both perceived and actual, and is highly consumable, people will eat it up right away and see the value almost immediately.
Right. What about the recipe? You have some other ideas of things that people can offer that tend to work?
Does anybody else see two Davids in this call now? Or is it just my computer lagging?
Yes.
Yeah, I got disconnected.
There's multiply. We
There are two of us.
He's running a split test right now. The smiling one and the serious one. Which one do you like?
Oh my
Can you hear me on this one at least? Am I live here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. You're good.
The other guy's dead. Sorry about that.
Oh my God. Can I say that in terms of value? So anything in terms of lists, guidebooks, ebooks, anything, of course, that you can send. But there's also an emotional value that you can provide just by saying, like, join the family, or get a certain email from me, or I don't know, like, get personal connection. I mean, sometimes you don't have anything to give, so it's always nice to be able to at least kind of create a sense of community and a personalization thing. So you don't have to give something away. You can always kind of think of a nice way to convince people that they're going to get personal kind of connection with you, or by just finding out more, or joining the club, joining the community, or whatever. And that's kind of
joining me on my journey towards something, because I've seen a lot of those where it kind of tugs at your heartstrings. So, like, we're just starting out, join us along on this journey, and you're like, yeah, I guess. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I'll see how this plays out.
But that's exactly it. It's about not just saying, oh, sign up and get an X guide or get an ebook. It's about making that connection. And also, I think when you're offering something that is a guide, I mean, of course, it's a great thing to give out, but it doesn't make that connection that's going to make the person keep coming back. When you're saying something like, join me on a journey, or, follow me as I go, or get my X tips a day, or something like that, which is, join the community of whatever, you're essentially making a connection with the person and showing them that you care about them, making them know that maybe they can know a bit more about you that others don't. Mm-hmm. And you're giving them the opportunity to come back and to find more relevant information when they come back. So it doesn't actually have to be something that they get it and it's done.
But here's an opportunity to bring up the survey thing again. See, this you knew I was going to come back to this. Surveys are a great opportunity, because the biggest mistake I see is that typically the value that's presented is the perception of the value of the person showing this pop-up, right? The owner of the site of the business. And it's so easy for them to not really realize what value really is to the visitor. So I have quite a few interesting stories where surveys have allowed us to understand what really value is. Let me give you an example. So we used the survey on a gaming site to understand what was the reason, like what really persuaded them and what they enjoyed about kind of using the gaming site, right? What was the driving factor? And funnily enough, we thought it was money, right? We thought it was the winning factor, but instead it was fun. So which was completely like the survey responses when we analyzed them, 60% used the term fun. And we were like, okay, so it's fun, it's not money. So then we built content or like tips around how to make the most out of the gaming platform to bring out fun. And we used imagery, and that just like doubled the conversion rate on leads. So surveys can be really, really effective at identifying, like empathizing with the user, understanding what those factors are.
Cool. That's some great conversations and tips around exit pop-ups. I think that if people are open to doing them, which it sounds like they work, so they should be. They've got lots of great information to go away with and work on that. We're going to move on to the next question here, which is there such a thing as over-optimization? And if there is, how the hell can you avoid it? Go!
Yes.
If you're flatlining, I think, if you start to see that your tests aren't really going anywhere and you've gone from these like big fluctuations to like that kind of crappy 1% up, 2% down type of test, then it's time to shake things up and either find something new to test in your site, because I'm sure you have other things, or maybe just throw everything out and do that big test that Talia talked about, where it's just like change the whole format or blow things up or see what happens, so that you know for sure this is the best thing that we can do, and now like either let's carry on or like let's go this new route.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really easy for people to get focused on a single page or a single area of the site, and they kind of start running into this kind of the single iterative approach, where they're simply just kind of tweaking little things and seeing those small lifts, if any lift at all. So they've reached really that local maxima, and they really do need to start shaking things up. But there's also, I mean, just starting to look at, maybe, exactly what you said. I was going to try to add on it, but I can't add anything but to that, because you can totally I just want to hear myself talk. I just really wanted to talk. I really did.
Keep it going. We have 15 minutes.
I can keep going for a while. All right. But no.
That's a good compliment, though.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you can over-optimize. Done. And Justin talking. Someone else can.
People don't realize the different things that they can optimize. Like, for example, like you can be taking, like you were talking about before, segmenting and maybe checking out, how things are doing on mobile, or checking out how, certain locations are doing. I think when you kind of look at a landing page, people are automatically saying, let's change the content on this and look at everything, look at all the visitors. But there's so many little segments that you can kind of break up that I don't think people really know all the different ways that they can see test results and change things. Go, Justin, go.
He's got a good story. Okay, now that you said it, I had a great story. I was working with a company, and they said to me, they go, okay, so we have this landing page, and it's converting right now at about 75%. How would you fix it? And I said, I wouldn't. You're done here right now. Now start thinking about the sources. Where's it coming from? Like, it's primarily email traffic. I was like, great. So let's look at your emails. Let's try to figure out ways that we can get more people to this page because it's converting so well. So people have this just tendency to over-focus on a page itself when all the other sources coming in. And they were doing this completely. And I think after we decided, like, the best route to go is to start looking at send times and using, I think most email texts have it integrated now, where it does a send based off of user history of opens and interactions. But this one I was using at the time was a tech called Audience Point, where that would do that for you and build kind of a one-to-one kind of research on your email list that was in there and send things out based on the time they would be most likely to interact based on historical data. So I was like, if you start doing frequency testings and timing tests, I'm sure you sure as hell are going to get more people to this page that's converting at 75%, and you're going to be doing just as much work putting this together as this landing page, but actually seeing more results rather than some kind of mini lift, if anything.
Cool. I think we're going to move on, just because we've got about 10 minutes left to the webinar. We're going to move along to slide 14. I want to spend some time because I think this is really important for conversion rate optimization. Slide 14, guys. That's this one is what are some of your favorite paid tools? What are some free tools? And we can only mention Hotjar 5 times.
Yay!
we could have done.
I'm going first, Hotjar.
Can I go first?
No, you have to pick another tool.
And the Hotjar guy can't use Hotjar. That's right. He's got to pick something else.
Fair enough. So you can go first. I'll be the last one then.
Smart.
You can always say Hotjar first. Then.
I already said, definitely for free. It's kind of a no-brainer right now. Any of the things that all the other tools I used to use has, so I've just been using it like for everything, and I love it. For paid, it's such a simple tool to implement. It's so easy to kind of shake things up. Our designer just actually, I didn't say anything. I let her choose between the different ones that she had, and she picked Unbounce at the end because it's just really intuitive, but you can still use code and kind of change formats and really play with it. So I would say those two have just been kind of in my stack, and I don't really use anything outside of that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So my favorite paid tool has got to be Intercom. It's fantastic. We use it at Hotjar. So it's basically optimized for communication when you have a SaaS tool. So anyone within Hotjar can click on a chat button and they can speak to the team. We can assign these tickets between us. It also gives us analytics. It's really awesome. And favorite free tool, I'm going to be a little bit boring, but analytics, Google Analytics is the winner always for me. I'm just going to make it easier for you to choose something else as well.
All right. I guess I'll go with mine. You took analytics, so Google, yeah, they're great. From a paid side, for exit pops, I use a tool called Optimonk. That's where I'm able to do all that cool segmentation I was talking about earlier. It's pretty badass. I like them. For testing, again, this is paid, but I use VWO for testing currently. That's who we've been using at Digital Marketer for quite some time.
People might not know what VWO is.
Okay, yeah, Visual Website Optimizer. So that's
name ever, right?
I know. That's why I go with whoa.
Whoa. Well, they're actually called Whoa now. They're not Visual Website Optimizer.
They do have that whoa. For a duration tool that I really think is useful, it's a statistics calculator. It's called GPower3. It was made at the Universidad Düsseldorf. It is a free calculator, and it is amazing for kind of figuring out, what sort of percent lift would I have to see based off of my traffic stats and the confidence rate I want to see. That's one of the things I like to use there. I think that's really useful in trying to kind of play with the numbers during the scheduling process.
You forget that you...
Say again?
It's funny, you always forget that I always look up something, like a statistical calculator, because I can never trust go back and see something that's outside and go, okay, does the numbers actually make sense? Is this I don't know why, I just never trust whatever I'm using source. I don't know if you guys are the same way.
But that's a critical habit. That's awesome to do that. You double around the numbers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just something. I mean, I know it's better to be, I think, kind of worried about the numbers that you're looking at and being skeptical of them than to kind of blindly believe them. I think that's having a skeptic's first view on things is really useful. But this has been a useful tool. I think it was made from statisticians at that university. So it's what I've been using, and it kind of gets me some baselines and helps kind of show, especially during presentations, it shows clients and people that, there's all these other factors and levers that you can pull when you're trying to put these tests together. So that's a really powerful free tool.
Cool. Talia, do you want to tell us some of your tools, your favorite paid and free?
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, and David knows this because I keep sending him the videos and the podcasts that I'm on, but I always recommend Hotjar because we're true advocates of it because we really use so many tools and we really enjoy using it. So that's one.
I learned about it off of you.
Yes, see? I'm not just telling you this, David, I'm actually doing it.
I believe you now.
I've literally been sending him links. Look, if you go to minute 4, you'll see me talking about Hotjar. Okay, other than Hotjar, we also use PT Engine. It's actually a Chinese company, and it does heat maps with analytics. And what we've been doing with it is actually setting it up while we launch tests within Optimizely. And what it does, it really helps you kind of understand what's happening within the test. And it's just a really, really cool tool. They're just coming now into kind of the Western world, so to say, from Asia. They're very big in Asia, very big in Japan and in China, and they do a lot of really cool kind of analytics and data kind of searching, so I really enjoy using them. The other one that I use, of course, is Intercom IO, which I've been using for quite a few years now. I just think they've built a fantastic product. And the last one that I use is Banana Splash, which I think I spoke on, I told you about that, Tiffany, too. Banana Splash is a mobile web platform, and it basically helps any business that has, doesn't have a mobile solution. So basically, you have to pinch and zoom, or you do have a mobile responsive site, but it's not really converting. It's a really cool layer that you can add to your mobile site. To anyone who comes in for mobile traffic will get this layer, and you can decide if you want people to call you, get a coupon, leave a lead, or whatever. And it's just much quicker and easier than just completely redesigning a mobile site or even a mobile landing page. It's just like a 2-minute setup thing, and I really enjoy it.
So you said that was Banana Flash? I was trying to look it up, but I couldn't find it.
Banana Splash.
Flash.
Splash. It's in beta right now. We've been using it for parts of our clients. For some of our clients, we've seen some really interesting results there. And it's just for people who have a ton of mobile traffic and don't know what to do with it. So it's a really helpful tool. So that's going to be mine for today.
Cool. I think we're about just a couple minutes away, and I want people who are listening here, we may have lost our host of who's turning the slides, so we may not have any more slides, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get you to the survey or not, but we're going to try. But before we do that, I just want to have our guest here just let people know how they get in touch with you if they want to get in touch with you. Can you let us know the best ways to do that? And why don't we start with, we'll just start with the order that we did. I guess Justin wants to go first.
Ooh, you can find me on Twitter at JTRondeau, or just look me up on LinkedIn, or just check out digitalmarketer.com. One of those three things, you're bound to find me somewhere.
Okay, Dr. David?
Yeah, LinkedIn is my favorite, so David Darmanin, very easy to find.
Okay. Talia?
Is that me?
Yeah, sorry, that's you.
I thought you said Tiffany and then Tiffany.
Tiffany.
It was a combination of the two of you together.
You can make her own name.
Yeah. Well, you can reach Tiffany and myself on Slack together because we're on the same Slack. You can, first of all, I love Twitter. That's my favorite thing. So Talia GW. And other than that, you can definitely go to our blog, so conversioner.com. Tons of kind of insights there. And LinkedIn, Talia Wolf. That's me, or Talia Wolf.
Talia. That's a joint venture name right there, Talia.
And Tiffany, how about yourself? How can people get in touch with you?
Well, always go to Powered by Search, of course, and look for us there. Plug. And at Bella Stone, it's really difficult. You're never going to remember it, but Bella Stone is my Twitter, and LinkedIn. I'm easy to find as well.
Okay, great. And I don't know if we have our guys back for holding the slides, but if they are back, we're going to try and bring you to the slide where you can, or in the system here where you can click on a link that's going to bring you to take that survey. And if you do take that survey, you'll be entered into a contest. We'll pick one of you to be able to win a $50 gift card. I just want to thank all our guests for being here today. I think they gave some amazing and valuable insights into conversion optimization. And I want to let people know that next month we're doing another one, and it's called How to Create Content That Produces Instant Leads and Sales. It's on July the 30th, and again, you can go over to Powered by Search site for the webinar series and sign up for it there if you'd like to attend that. Again, everyone, thank you so much for coming, and we'll give the guys behind the scenes a big virtual high five for keeping the webinar up and running. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.